Alright guys, what's going on today? Welcome back to the channel. Now if you're here, you already know what's up. It's regarding Boruto episode 194. If you guys seen it, it's pretty fire. Now this episode goes around chapter 27 of the manga. And yeah, so far it copied mostly everything. There are some small changes here and there, but let's get down to it. A quick summary: Kawaki's living in the Uzumaki household, and him and Boruto are kind of going back and forth at it. You know, with the pissing scene and all sorts of that stuff. And basically Kawaki, you know, he's trying to get used to the family, but he can't because this is his first day living there. Because the vase was actually last episode, and that was 1 day ago, roughly, if you look at it. And then the episode talks about how Boruto is having a hard time with Kawaki, and how Sarada, you know, kind of teases him a little bit. And then it goes back to Boruto and the household again, him and Kawaki going at it, you know, with Kawaki eating the food, and it's all sorts of stuff in this episode. Anyways, let's compare the manga and the anime. Now, most of this episode is similar to the manga chapter 27. Even the beginning as well, when they start off, it's with Himawari and Hinata outside throwing the vase out. And then it goes to the scene where Kawaki and Boruto taking a piss. Now, the pissing scene is kind of funny here, but I say the manga did it better. In this, they're both taking a whiz, and when they go outside, when they're taking the whiz against the wall, Kawaki looks at Boruto and he's like, he calls him a shrimp. Now, I don't know if he's calling him a shrimp physically on his height or
talking about his eggplant.
And you can see Boruto's kind of ticked off when he says it, and then they start fighting. Man didn't wash them hands, alright? They just straight up started fighting. You know, like, what if, you know, a little whiz got on their hands? Anyways, they start fighting. Karma activates. Naruto comes out, and he's like, oh, geez, these brats. And he's like, they won't let me, you know, go to the washroom peacefully. As in the manga, Naruto's like, yo, they won't let me shit in peace. You know, like, I'd say the manga is funnier when it comes to that scene. But yeah, that's them fighting about it. Then the scene cuts out to them at the dinner table. Now, they're all having breakfast right now, and Kawaki thinks the food is poisoned. Now, comparing this scene to the manga is actually different. In the manga, Boruto's supposed to be sitting on the right side next to Hinata, and Himawari's supposed to be on the left side next to Naruto, but in this they switched it. And Himawari looks at Kawaki and he looks back at her, and she kind of, you know, shocked, like she's a little, you know, scared of him. Now, this scene here, in my opinion, I think the manga did it actually better. The manga shows Kawaki's emotion rather than the anime. The anime kind of got into it, but later in the episode. As to in the manga, when you see Kawaki sitting at the table, they show a panel of him and the Uzumaki family. He's showing a happy family and how he's been invited to this happy family and finally have a, you know, somebody that, you know, loves and cares for him. Because in that scene in the manga, that one panel, they're all sitting at the table, and it shows a lot. All right, now if you ask me, in my opinion, manga did it much better than the anime. All right, even though, let's say if the anime didn't exist, I think in the manga we'd all get the sense that that scene shows how Kawaki is trying to get used to the Uzumaki family, how he finds it all, you know, calm and everything, like how they're all getting along with each other, because he never had this type of experience before. And it kind of shows him, and it, you know, it shows a little ... like he doesn't know how to interact with them. Well, in the anime, they changed it up, and he just looks at Himawari. She's kind of, you know, like ticked here and there, and Naruto's like, the food's not poisoned and all that sorts of stuff. And then, you know, it cuts out to the other stuff. So then this part here in the anime has been added, which wasn't in the manga, is when Boruto goes to Sarada and Mitsuki. They're doing some kunai, shuriken throwing, and Boruto keeps missing, and Sarada mentions that, you know, he's not hitting it right today. He's like, something happened to him. And then he starts talking about Kawaki and how, you know, he's an asshole and everything. And Sarada's like, I understand where you're coming from, you know, because he's dangerous and he could, you know, destroy the village or something like that with his power. And even Mitsuki mentions too. Now remember, Mitsuki's not usually, you know, much into these conversations, but he was kind of serious when he said Kawaki could potentially destroy the village, which I believe it foreshadows back to episode 1. It could possibly be that Kawaki's the one who destroys the village. We're not 100% sure, but you can see the hostility they have. And then Boruto's like, it's not like that. He's like, he's not an asshole, but he couldn't get the words out. And then Sarada makes fun of him a little bit. Now for us Borusara people, this is a moment right here. Sarada teases him with the one eye closed, you know, and it makes Boruto all flustered. When she tells him, you know, he can't get his words out, it shows how Boruto is slowly trying to open up to Kawaki, but he can't. Anyways, and then it goes back to Kawaki in the Uzumaki household, and he's trying to leave, and Hinata stops him. And then she asks him what he wants to eat for dinner, and he doesn't answer. He just leaves. He's like, I have no preference. And then he just leaves, goes around the village, and Naruto's walking behind him. And then he goes around, Kawaki goes around the village, goes next to the river, sees all these kids, and he's kind of bamboozled by how everyone has this type of freedom and how everyone is so, you know, relaxed and peaceful. So then while he's sitting down by the river, he sees a family, and his mom goes out to her kids, and she's like, what do you guys want to eat for dinner? And Kawaki, you know, he kind of thinks as to when Hinata asked him what he wanted for dinner. Now, like I said, I know I said about in the manga, that scene at the dinner table, how it shows how Kawaki's having a hard time fitting in. Instead of them putting that in the manga, they actually did that, I believe, with this scene, where Kawaki thinks about it when he looks at the other families and how they're interacting, and how their parents are reacting with the kids, and he thinks back on that. And then his stomach gurgles and he goes back to the house, and there's a pot stew that's been cooked up, and they start, munching that. And then him and Boruto get kind of competitive. Now, if it wasn't for Boruto, I don't think Kawaki would be eating much. And because of Boruto, he got a bit competitive. Now, Boruto and Kawaki's relationship is going to be that of Sasuke and Naruto's now, where they're going to be rivals. Because when Boruto was talking to Sarada and Mitsuki, he was saying that Kawaki always competes with him with everything, no matter what it is, and they're always getting each other's way, which is similar to the Sasuke and Naruto relationship, where they're both competitive with each other, and who's better, this and that, which I believe they're going to talk about. Anyways, Kawaki starts eating, and then it goes to the next day, and then Kawaki talks about his backstory to Boruto. He's telling him how he got the Karma Seal, and Boruto's telling him how he got his Karma Seal when he defeated Momoshiki Otsutsuki and all sorts of that stuff. But during Kawaki's backstory is talking about how Jigen gave him his karma. But yeah, this scene here is really important as to the manga. I'm sure this is exactly the same as the manga chapter 27, but there's one part here when Kawaki's like, you haven't experienced anything worse than death, which kind of shows Boruto's character. Like, Boruto hasn't experienced that type of loss, but we don't know. Boruto's loss might be worse than Kawaki's, because if he ends up losing everything, as Momoshiki said, his blue eyes will take away everything from him, his loss probably will be greater than Kawaki's. All right, that's the one sentence he said there. It kind of foreshadows to Boruto, because Boruto couldn't relate to him. They relate in everything else later on, but at that point, Boruto couldn't relate to him, because Boruto's like, you're lucky, because Boruto told him, you were spared. He's like, I wasn't spared. He's like, you don't know my pain. He's like, this is worse than death. And you can tell Boruto was a bit shocked, and you hear Naruto in the back listening. Now, like I said, this scene was important, and how they were talking about it. For this scene, Kawaki's like, you know what? Help me find the karma. Let's destroy the karma. Let's get rid of it and everything. And Boruto's like, before we do anything, he's like, I want you to fix that vase, because he's like, that vase was important. Kawaki's like, oh, this brat. And then it cuts out to them outside. Boruto leaves the house, and Kawaki goes outside. He looks at the vase in the bag, in the trash bag, and Naruto's like, he's like, Boruto's serious about it, So then Naruto goes up to Kawaki. He's like, Boruto's dead set on, the vase and all this and that. And Kawaki's like, all right, I'll be back. I'm gonna go get one. Naruto's like, are you gonna steal one? And Kawaki doesn't answer him. So Naruto knows he's gonna steal one. And he's like, you know what? Let's go out together and let's go get a vase. And the episode ends there. Like I said, this episode it uses all of chapter 27, and we're close to the Delta part. Now, Delta arrives around chapter 30, so we have 3 episodes roughly. And apparently it's been confirmed that we're going to see the Delta versus Naruto part around episode 197 to 200, I believe, in between these 3 episodes. And since right now we're at 194, that means we have 3 episodes before we hit the 197 mark. But yeah, this is me going over episode 194. Now, like I said, this episode was important to Kawaki's character, but in my opinion, I kind of believe the manga did it slightly better in that one panel. But yeah, this episode does revolve around Kawaki and how he's trying to fit into the Uzumaki household. That's why the episode's called, the Uzumaki household. Since it's Kawaki, figuring out how to interact with this type of family. He never had this type of family. But yeah, this episode is really good, and I can't wait for the next episode. And I believe episode 196 is going to correlate with chapter 57, because anything they do with the manga, they start in the anime a little bit. What I mean by that was the code part, where they kept showing code in the past couple of episodes during the 180s, and guess what? Code ended up being an important piece later on in the manga, as we've seen in chapter 55, 56. So that's how something might go down with episode 196, which might correlate with chapter 57, but we'll see where that goes. Anyways, thanks for watching. Please comment, like, subscribe. Stay tuned for my future videos. I got more videos to come, and peace out.